few things hit late this week, huh?
Yeah.
The boys still around, or they take off?
No, they both left yesterday, Monday, yesterday?
Yep.
They left yesterday. Sam, Drew had a Sam Light of Logan.
Yep.
Hi guys. Hey.
Gone?
And Sam took off yesterday afternoon. It was
Still a little sore from one.
That's an H, right? Oh, I thought it's because you want to go shh.
My parking spot.
No, the camera's live. All right. Hey, Forrest.
How you doing?
How you doing, Steve?
How's your trip up north, all right? Yeah.
You have a good Memorial Day? You have a good Memorial Day weekend?
Okay.
That was lovely. Oh, oh, nice. Doing what? Doing the gardens or the interior? Yeah. All the interior stuff, yeah.
I'm sure.
Of course, right. We got about 3 minutes on this. Mr. Mackey. Oh. that?
I just need you on that one.
No, that's for you.
So,
Yep, yep, manifest for everybody. All right. Maybe no planning board this week, Joe. Or
Summer starts.
what's that?
Summer starts.
Yeah, something like that. You guys see the level? All right, 7 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order for Tuesday, May 30th, 2023. First item on the agenda, Conservation Commission with Seltz and Gerard. Appreciate you guys coming in. So, I know this has been kind of a long-running discussion over the last several years regarding the access to the Tiscasset Greenway. Currently runs through the Gerard property. You guys are probably familiar with the access, hopefully familiar with the issues there. The Gerards made a request for the select board to possibly do a letter supporting changing access to Bald Hill Road, given the location that is currently coming off of Route 87 in Piscasset. We had crafted a letter, there was some support for this, but Mike had conveyed that there was some questions about this at the Conservation Commission. We thought it would be good to have you come in. We can all talk about it, see where this all falls down. So with that, I don't know, do you want to, I mean, you've been between the Conservation and the Select Board. Is there anything you wanna-
I mean, the other goal I think that we have to have here is better communication, I think, between Conservation Committee and Select Board. And I get the sense that that had not been happening in the past. But again, I just want to, make the commitment to both boards that, I'll be a reliable conduit, and we need to make sure that we've got that information flowing. So, I know one of the things that we talked about was, potentially at the beginning of the select board meetings, I would give an update based on the conservation committee that we had to the select board, and so that they're aware. And we do the same thing on the conservation committee. If there are any issues that select board is dealing with that affects conservation, we can kick off the meeting with those things. So those would just be my recommendations for moving forward. If you guys are good. Yeah.
One thing I'll also note here is we received a letter actually today via email from Seltz. It was mostly basically giving a history of the easements across the Gerards and the use of it. I didn't get the sense of actually addressed some of the critical issues that were raised about this, but were you guys, I don't remember, you guys were on the record? Okay, I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that, so with that, maybe you guys can describe the conservation.
That segues right into where the Concom stands. Is that letter from Seltz is a better summary than we could provide of how we're approaching the issue. I think There were a couple of main things pointed out in that letter, I think they need attention, and I think one of the largest is that this isn't a town issue. This is an issue between the Gerards and Selt. So we're having a hard time putting it together as to why this has become a select board issue. The Conservation Commission was in conversation with the Gerards for the better part of 6 months. And when we last discussed the changing or the moving of the access was in 2021, we left thinking that there was a solution on the table that was agreed upon. Selt was going to move or agree to a new access that was on the Gerard property, which is outlined in
the 50-foot access way.
So,
And it was laid out that way in the easement originally.
Correct.
And I forget which section it was, but I was reading it last night.
it was referred to as an access easement.
And construction had started on that, and our last correspondence with the Gerards was in September 2021, saying they were going to move forward with that solution. So it wasn't that there was a lack of communication between us and the select board, we thought it was a done deal. So,
Understood.
And after the 6-month communication, which was ultimately not very productive because it is not a town issue, it essentially acted as the jumping off point for the Gerards to have a conversation with Selt. The Concom, the town, wasn't in a position to make the decisions on that access. Selt had to agree to it. So,
Well, I'll jump in here and I'll say, I mean, there are town issues here. One is the safety of those trucks on what is a blind corner on Piscassic is a public safety issue. There's no doubt about that. We have the same problem with the visibility site at the Vernons, and they're required to move their driveway as well. So there is a public safety aspect there. There's a public safety aspect of those trucks crossing the rail trail. Because dogs, people walk their dogs out there, people bike out there, people walk out there. There's a public safety aspect about that as well. As well as, if someone were to come before this board and say, I have a problem with some activity going on, I'm looking for assistance from the town, I think it's incumbent upon this board to act on it. Now, I'm not saying that we will, what the decision here is, but I think we wouldn't be doing our job if we didn't take concerns like that seriously. And I certainly find that the request that the Gerards made of Selt, which was, give us 24 hours notice before you come through, which Selt has repeatedly denied them that, creates in my opinion, first of all, I don't understand why Selt would not accede to them. And they've been adamant about not providing the Gerards with a commitment to do that. If somebody were coming through my property, even though it was a valid easement, showing up at any time of day, no notification, they're not required to show their IDs, they can just go on the property, and I had kids, I think I'd be very concerned about that, and I can understand why they see this as a problem. And I can understand why they're asking the town to maybe come up with a better solution for this. To me, all this says there is a role for the town to play in trying to resolve this matter. As to the request that, to move it to Bald Hill, I personally don't have a problem with that. I think from a traffic standpoint, it makes a heck of a lot more sense to access this. Now, I understand that there may be other issues involved with that. There may be issues about the conservation easements. There may be issues about, what is it going to cost? How this is going to get done? Okay. But in my opinion, I would be very supportive of moving it out there because I think that, in essence, is a better, safer access point for this. Short of that, I get it, the easement language is what the easement language is, and Self can basically say, pound sand, we're not gonna tell you when we're coming on your property. I personally find that somewhat abhorrent as somebody who's representing this community, that they're acting in this manner and refusing to acquiesce to that. Now, I don't know how you guys feel about that, but to me, that's a concern. That's a public safety concern, and I think that we need to consider it.
I understand what you're saying. I also feel as though we can't ignore the fact that there was a solution that dealt directly with the safety issue.
Are you talking specifically about moving it up to?
Yeah, definitely. So it's just hard to say that if safety wasn't the main concern, or if safety is the main concern, and that was an agreed upon safer option, why didn't it happen?
Right, so the DOT permit that was in the Self letter, as well, supports that, showing that relocated access through the access easement was an approved DOT permit, which was in our discussions to also address the safety concerns of exiting and entering on Route 87. Which it doesn't address the rail trail concerns, but at least in terms of access to the property from the main
But it
road.
doesn't cover it from the middle of the property.
No, I understand. It doesn't go between the garage and the house anymore, but it's still going through the property, right? They still go around there, they go right past the paddocks there that they have the horses in. They're still going, in essence, they're going on their property at any time that they choose without notification.
Mark, I thought the paddocks were on the other side of your property.
No, there's two. So there's a riding ring for the horses. So
I don't think that was there when we were doing the site.
No, it is set up.
if I can state something quickly, so
No.
to Forrest's point, yes, it was never agreed upon, right? We got to the 11th hour. We were willing to actually put our land in the back, the buildable lot across the rail trail, into conservation. We were going to build the access road where you're talking right now. And they refused to give us 24 hours of notification. They literally said, we'll do everything but that. And again, to what Mike was saying, it is a safety thing. I know some of you have children, but with children and animals, I don't know who's coming on. And I don't really see in this day and age how it can be that difficult to give someone notification. I just can't fathom. I mean, this thing was put together, what, 17 years ago? And what was talked about last time when we weren't present was we were given a 2-page summary of their access. And it says that most of the access would be done by foot, sometimes by vehicle, and mostly through Bald Hill and another access. And then it also said in times of emergency that they would be coming on our property, and to date, which was 11 years, it had never been done. And that they would log it every 12 to 15 years. That's all we were given. And they showed up, as we've talked about, we've made this aware to everybody, they showed up 3 to 4 times a day for 2 summers. So I understand, as Mike was saying, the language is what the language is. Itself is definitely leveraging the D language in their favor.
So we're not here to defend self.
No, I understand that.
I don't want to make
I-
about the safety thing.
And
We've gone down that road with them, and that's a discussion with them. I mean, I do have documentation that's being presented to them from Joe Falzone, family of Hopkins, of this was never the intention of this access. So when that 11th hour came, they gave a flat out no. We found that Cole Farm, and we said, what is this? Is this a possible option? And they looked into it and they said, yes, it is a possible option, but it requires work, and I'm sure there's obviously some environmental things we'd have to look at, but at the same time, I look at crossing the rail trail as a pretty big negative. So if we are to build that road in the end, if that has to occur, I'd be foolish not to build back there. So now we're talking septics, leach fields, wells. What's going to be more invasive? And now you've got constant traffic crossing the rail trail every single day. I just look at this as the best interest of everybody. Does it benefit us? Absolutely. But we're also willing to give up that land, put it in conservation. We've been willing to pay for this, for the access to Cole Farm, and we can't even get Southeast Ventures to return our phone calls. So, yeah, it's been going on a long time, and it is vitally frustrating at this stage of the game. And we're just trying to resolve it, and it seems like a win-win for them, where they have access now to the Castle Greenway. They can now log Cole Farm, which is obviously what they want to be doing in the attentions anyways, and they never have to bother anybody ever again. Whether we stay here for the rest of our lives or whether we sell and develop the property, I mean, you don't have that issue ever again.
Hogan?
Gentlemen of the Concom, is there, to me, so we've got these competing conflicts, issues, whatever. And I look, okay, what's the simplest way to solve this problem? Is there some issue on the Concom that says we do not want to transition from the 87 access, not just because of the language of the documents, which are all three right here, which I've read in great detail, but is there a reason that are you objecting to moving the road off Bald Hill as a Concom? And if so, why?
So first of all, it's the easement is Celt's easement. The town of Newfields, other,
Totally understand, I've read it.
so,
But
basically what comes down is nobody other than the Gerards Celt, the United States Department of Agriculture is also a
which also has exactly the same rights that the town of Newfield said. They're parallel, they're identical. And the state's own documents, the USDA, they have no supercharge above us. They're identical.
But
Is
been brought into the
Yeah,
conversation.
but is there an objection on the Concom?
Other than to honor the language of the easement and to honor the alternatives provided by the easement, which was the access easement, the 50-foot buffer.
Well, let me jump in here and say, the letter that we drafted only says that we think that this is a good idea. It doesn't make any requirements of anybody. It basically says we're encouraging them to provide a proposal from Bald Hill, because we think it might be better. And I get your point that formally, the town can't change the easement here. But at the same time, you have bodies of government weighing in on issues that they don't have jurisdiction on because, at the end of the day, people request them to for a variety of reasons, because those bodies represent those citizens. To me, this makes sense. I think it's a better solution. And I understand your point, Jeff, that, you know, formally we don't have a role, but at the same time, as a town, we do have a role to weigh in on this.
Sure. However, I think, and it might have been a misinterpretation on our part, but it was presented that the board was presenting a letter of support to move the access. And that just seems...
No, we're encouraging them to, I can read the language specifically. It says, as representatives of the town of Newfields, we would like to encourage CEL to provide the town a proposal for a driveway from Bald Hill.
It just seems premature to be able to say that the town supports that without any sort of due diligence in terms of environmental impacts.
Again,
We've asked for that to be done.
we are recognizing that this is a process, and somebody could come back and say, nope, can't be done because of X, Y, or Z.
We all agree on that, right?
Well, it sells property,
But
so we can't.
At the same time, again, I'm astounded at CELT dragging their heels on trying to resolve this in a manner that I find very simple to resolve, and yet they choose not to. Okay, if you choose to basically, in my opinion, treat the people of this town who bought that land and provided them the easement for it in this manner, then I think it's entirely appropriate for this town to basically say, we want you to come up with a better solution. To me, that's what this body is for. is to represent the people of this town when they feel they're being wronged. And I think, to some extent, they're being wronged here.
Yeah, I see the benefit for the Greenway. If they're gonna give up that 1.88 acres and not develop a house on it, and as was represented, wells, driveways, access, everything, that goes straight to the green zone. And so now that area is now protected. And that's a big transition, that's a fiscal swap over there, that's to the benefit of the town and Sell and the Greenway. It seems like a simple, I agree, I see a simple solution here.
Okay, and it's not just Selt's access, the Newfields conservation easements back there, it's our stewardship access as well.
And
So
you
that
guys,
would need to be formalized, if it moves, like, it's two separate easements.
yes.
Also, I'm a little concerned that, like, did you all consider bringing us into the conversation when you're saying the town supports moving and easement?
So we've had discussions at this board for well over a year about this, on and off for well over a year.
Okay, and we were talking about it for 6 months prior to.
And I understand that, and this goes to the point that I think Mike raised, which was, I'm surprised that the board representation at the select
Before
board.
Jackie came to our meetings, no one came to our meetings.
Fair enough,
Whoever the person was before.
I don't know who it was.
And typically, if we wanted something brought to the board,
Mhm.
we would say, can you bring this to the board?
No, I understand.
And the reason we didn't is we thought it was settled.
Trust me, I think we all understand why we're here today, as opposed to not having a better conversation,
Right.
but this is where we are.
Okay.
And again, I think Mike has raised an issue that, I had assumed that you guys knew of the discussions that we were having here, and my assumption is that the board representation would be conveying any relevant discussions you guys had back to us. Clearly, it was not really happening in the way that was preferable, I would guess, I would surmise.
I think we can also say that one of the reasons for that is the fact that it hasn't been viewed as a town issue.
Understood?
So,
Understood, but again, there has been a half dozen meetings where we've had discussions about this. And so, and I understand you saying, oh, it's really not a town issue. At the same time, again, I view this body as representing the citizens of the town, and certainly, in my opinion, I'm not going to speak for anybody else, I find that the way CELT is addressing this, or basically not addressing the concerns raised by people here in town, I find that problematic. And so, this board is
So
doing what it
going
should do.
forward, if you guys are having meetings talking about easement access,
Yep.
should we be checking all the agendas, or should we?
Well,
Wait for
again,
I'll let you know.
I think it will be incumbent on the board representative, if we have a conversation the next day or, the next couple of days after our meeting, to convey to you, hey, this issue came up, do you guys have any thoughts about this? All right? I mean, I do that with the planning board, right? When things come up here, I throw an email back to the planning board, because if things happen at the planning board, I throw an email back to the select board if there's something coming up. So, the answer is, there should be better communication, it should be more time.
Great. Okay, and I think that also helps. Part of the reason why I wanted to come and I was talking to Mike about this was to understand the intent of the letter.
Mhm.
Because the way it read is just a letter in support. I was kind of curious as to what some of that language was that you had just read off, which at least helps frame it a little bit better for me. So, thank you
Look,
for
I think the
explaining that.
intent here is not to tell anybody what to do, but to ask them to look at, is there a better solution for this? Because I think the current situation is a problem for parties involved.
And I think to that point, in the letter, if I remember correctly, there was a note about the upcoming Greenway Management Committee and their review of potential access alternatives,
Mhm.
and that someone presented. So, I think that's a good note to the discussion. I'm not sure what will or may not come of that discussion. As to the same with the letter based on what SELT had communicated to
Yep.
all of us in their correspondence. But I think it's important to note for the discussion that they have, at least mentioned in there that they are exploring those options for whatever that's worth.
Forrest, do you have a date time group where they're supposed to have that preliminary evaluation on alternative access locations?
I certainly do not.
That's a question, so.
Yeah.
That's a question.
SELT or
So,
SELT? Okay. So I'm not sure what the exact relation between the management committee and SELT is directly, but I suppose, in terms of evaluating the management committee's recommendations, that would be a SELT question. They'll have to evaluate.
Has it been ongoing for a while, this meeting? Who's on it? Allison and Lauren are on it.
Correct.
Have they been doing it
it's
for
really ramped up in the past couple of months.
Yeah, it just started. I think they've just recently started having meetings more regularly. I think this popped back up early this spring, late winter, that the management committee was being formed. As part of.
I think it's more of a reformation.
Well, correct. It's something that needs to happen.
reformation?
I believe it went inactive for a while. I think this probably was adopted when the Greenway easement happened. And I think it just kind of petered out over the years. So I think they're trying to reform.
It's written into the easement, if I remember correctly, that they need to readdress the management plan every 10 years.
It is.
And so this is part of that. And the purpose of that is to get input from various affected parties, such as the towns and other members, in trying to inform the management decisions on that easement, on that land.
Is any of this stimulated by the recent discussions about the Rec property as well? I know it's not part of this, but I didn't know with the Rec property coming up whether they thought, oh, we should probably look at this in the context of access and easement to all of these, and I didn't know.
I don't think so, it's
Okay.
pretty independent.
Yeah, I believe it's just based on the
Yeah.
Greenway easement and the language within.
Okay.
Which raises a good point in terms of, I feel that there's tremendous value in the town of Newfield's maintaining an amicable relationship with SELT.
As do I, although so far to date, the discussions with the Trust for Public Land, that model is very different from the model on the Greenway in terms of ownership, of management, and everything else. So
In a much different, positive way.
I think so, because I think the town has
Set us up, who's good.
the Trust for Public Land, it's just a different model. We had a long discussion at our last select board meeting about it in terms of, the responsibility of the town is a little more proactive, but fortunately, that property has been well maintained by other third-party groups, and so it would probably end up being a situation where they'll continue to have a more formal relationship about maintaining and work with the town, through the town to do that. So it'll just be a different model.
And back to note, I was reading the coal easement in a little bit greater depth, and one of the primary purposes within that easement, and this is just for whatever it's worth, as I mentioned to Mike at our last meeting, and in reference to the moving of the access, some of the primary purposes in that coal easement, one of which is to protect prime farmland soils. And another in there is there's a limit imposed on the impervious surface available on there, which specifically relates to practices such as putting in compacted gravel roads. There is some other language in there in reference to construction of roads and granting of third-party access, but I think that ultimately the intent of easements, as we deal with all the time, and when they're written, is to preserve the properties as intact as possible at the time of creating them. And ultimately, that's our role as the Conservation Commission, which is why when we heard about this and weren't as I think that those are important notes about the intent of that property in its conservation and the purpose of it. And the purpose of the Houghton easement to act as an access when it was created. And so I can't speak to the specifics of CELT and why they're behaving the way they are or anything else other than the correspondence that they provided. And they're not here, so I can't ask them directly. But speaking from purely a conservationist point of view on the situation, I think that, you know, the whole easement was written to stay as a farm the way that it is, generally speaking. And based on the language in the Houghton easement, it was written to act as an access to the greenway.
It does say in that easement access though that it does permit a road for logging purposes.
Yeah, and it specifically says in there on the property, referring to, as I understand it, the coal farm, not necessarily to act as an access to logging on
understand what
adjacent properties.
We can
But it's
I mean, I have the acronym, is it NRCS, you probably know better than me, but they had reviewed it, and they said that it is a doable function to look into. Obviously, we're trying to get, is it an option?
Yep.
And we can't get that answer because again, it's Self's land, and we've asked them, we've offered to pay for it to be surveyed and looked at, but they didn't go anywhere, obviously. So we're just trying to see what options are out there, because the current relationship is obviously not working.
So Forrest, you look at that, and quote, primary purpose of this easement, to protect agricultural soils, et cetera, and then conservation of open spaces, and then it goes on scenic enjoyment, et cetera, but then it specifically says logging and forestry, and if some of the property has logging on it, and so it isn't restrictive in the sense of that it shall not be viable to put a road in it as such.
Correct.
And then if you talk about impervious surfaces, Bill Reserve isn't here, but he can talk about impervious surfaces that counts come home. Having put in numerous logging roads myself, they're not necessarily impervious surfaces, especially depending on the limit of traffic. They're only going to be doing logging every 12 to 15 years, which the next one is due, what, 24, I think, 23 to 24. That's not going to be analogous to parking 200 cars on a piece of conservation easement.
No, and that's not necessarily what I'm saying. Just bringing it up to the fact of the protection of the farmland soils.
Totally understand, but I just wanted to stress, in concurrence with your point, that there are other references in coal that says this is a very viable use to access logging, and that's, trees are a problem.
And I think, back to my point in the language, it refers specifically to those activities on that piece of property and not necessarily to act as a conduit to nearby properties. I think there's some language in there about mergers as well, deeper into the easement, and I don't know if that necessarily relates, but for whatever that's worth. And I think, the town, the board has every right to send a letter if that's what you all wish to do. I think so pretty clearly stated their feeling about it in their closing of their letter by requesting that the town stay out of the situation. So, I'm sure you all.
But again, I found it interesting that what CELT didn't talk about was, the proposal that was made to them about, in the request, just provide 24-hour notice and we won't have that much of a problem here. They don't even mention that. They don't even mention that the land was offered to swap. And so while I can appreciate CELT's position, and to some extent this letter reinforces my opinion of CELT just wants to tell the town, tough, go pound sand. And I'm not saying they can't do that, but I don't find it very satisfying that we have somebody basically administering this easement who doesn't seem to care a whit about the people who, the other parties who are part of this process. That bothers me.
Michael, a question.
Yeah.
What does a 24-hour notice relate to? Is it somebody hiking through the property, or is it actual, like, logging activity?
I'll let Mark address it.
Yeah.
I mean, what they were doing originally, they were bringing materials, trucks. We just want to be able to know that they're coming, right? So if I have kids home alone or animals out, we can just put them away. And we don't need it. So it became just common courtesy. You just let us know when you're coming, we'd have to get up and move stuff. I mean, it was,
And that was related to construction kind of activity, or what?
they were building a bridge over a waterway out there, like a walking church.
Was there not also an issue, Mark, with people that work with self, just using the
Well,
access?
that's where it all became an issue, where people, in the pandemic, unfortunately, made this that much worse, where there was more people out. People were just cutting through our property. We assumed it was them. It wasn't. We had other people just walking their dogs through. It was a whole ordeal that we've gone through. We tried to be patient with them. I mean, we went through a year and a half of this, and kind of we just take a time out and just give us a little bit of insight as to when you're coming, and they just did not want to do it. For whatever reason. I mean, everything literally could have been resolved from the get-go, just some common courtesy, but.
Thank you.
Yeah.
One other question, I'll use my quota. Just so I understand, the Conservation Committee group had an agreement with Stella, basically, to say, everything's okay, we're gonna go ahead. And then there was a parallel, following that, there was parallel meetings, like 6 meetings with the select board regarding dissatisfaction with Stella.
There was a series of discussions over a period of time that we had discussions here about the access to relationship with cells, what was going on with respect to this, issues that were raised. And the Conservation Commission's role here is basically overseeing the maintenance of the easement. They're given the responsibility to basically work with the bodies that are in charge of all the easements around town. All the conservation easements around town. And so they're the ones who have oversight to some extent.
Mostly we're in charge of monitoring of the easements and ensuring that there are no concerns or issues on the easements.
And then if there are concerns, I won't my quota now, but if there are concerns with the easement, then it comes to the board then?
Well, I'll give you an example. Years ago, somebody raised the issue of the cars being parked on the Vernon property and whether that was compliant with the easement. And the select board directed them to the Conservation Commission, who was responsible for basically evaluating the situation and see if it complied with the easement language. So that's how their role is, monitoring and making sure that compliance with the terms of the easements are maintained. Okay. Anything else? No? All right, we voted on this before, but I'm going to raise it again just to see where the board is at. I will make a motion to send this letter to CELT with respect to the issue here, in support of encouraging evaluation of alternative access to Picasset Creek.
I'll second it.
Second by Hobie. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Great. Thank you guys for coming in. We really appreciate it. Very helpful. All right. Next up, a little after 7:15. Sorry, guys. Hope you didn't make dinner by then. Trustees of the trust fund. I appreciate you coming in. Wanted to discuss with you the issue of the changes to the Maureen Hackett Fund. Just as background, the Maureen Hackett Fund was established 15, 20 years ago, maybe. Maureen Hackett, former wife, 2004. Maureen Hackett was a former wife of Dr. Tom Hackett, who lived here in town down in Harding Brook. And Maureen passed away. The Hackett family, Dr. Hackett, his 2 children, established the Maureen Hackett Fund that basically provided money for Shakespeare programs at the school. And that fund was given in trust to the town, for the town to administer, and then provide the money to the school, you know, making sure that the funds were used for that purpose. Recently, we received notice that the trust fund and the school board had requested a change to the trust language that, in essence, the trust originally required this basically narrow a March 1 week in March program, and the change was basically to make that a little more open-ended, allowing some discretion on an annual basis.
To be specific, to delete words during the month of March.
Oh, exactly. So it gave them the ability to basically better manage it. When I received the paperwork that this had already been done, signed off by the Attorney General and everything, the first thing I did was actually call Elizabeth Hackett, the daughter of Tom and Maureen, and asked her if she was aware of this. And she said no. Nobody had called her. I said, do you know if anyone called Tom, her brother? She said, no, nobody called Tom. And I said, okay, I'm gonna raise this, and I'm gonna ask you to come in. And I have no problem with the change in the language. And actually, I think Elizabeth and Tom don't have a problem with the change in the language. The concern is that nobody reached out to them to ask them before this was done. Nobody from the school board, nobody from the trust. I was unaware that it was even going on because I would have called her lickety-split. And so I'm not here to call anyone on the carpet. I'm here to make a request, which is if somebody in town is putting money in trust with the town with instructions that it be handled in perpetuity the way they want, I think it's incumbent on the town that if the town wants to make a change, and again, I think the change is perfectly fine, that they reach out to whoever did this or their descendants and say, hey, we want to make a change. Are you okay with this? You guys didn't break any laws. You didn't break any rules. What you did was fine. I just think that stuff like this is what you want. You want people to give back to the community. You don't want them to think that they can give money to the town and depending upon who's sitting on what board, they can go and change that purpose and not let the family ever know. And I'll use the example. This town owns the conservation land where the Hilton Foundation is and the Hilton Cemetery. It's the town's. And we can do, as long as we're following the easement, we can do with what we want. And we could go and try to make changes to that easement. But Lord knows, I personally would be appalled if this town did anything without contacting the Sellers family and the descendants of the Hiltons and say, hey, just to let you know. I mean, when we cut down the trees at the cemetery, because they were dying trees, needed to be done, we contacted the family. And I'm just throwing it out there because I think it's the right thing to do. There's a right way to do things, and I raise it, again, not because I want to call you on the carpet, but I would love to set a precedent because Lord knows we're not going to be here at some point, you're not going to be there at some point. We should just have a good policy to say there should be an effort to contact the descendants before we do something like this.
There are 6 people who actually set the fund up. I'm aware that one of them has passed away. I do know one of the other 5, and I approached that individual and asked.
Who is that?
Lynn Sweet.
Okay.
And I asked her, why did they make the specific thing about March? Did she remember when they were setting this up?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't ask Lynn if any descendants of the Hacketts were still around. So Maybe I didn't carry it far enough.
Understood.
We made something of an effort to at least touch.
And that's great.
People would set it up.
Steve, I trust me, this is not to bash you over the head, and I think that's great. I think if you guys are ever doing that, one thing you may want to do, certainly talk to Sue downstairs, who knows everybody and everybody knows. I would encourage you to let the select board and other board members know, just in general, because, I mean, if I don't know them, you know what, I might ask Ray Buxton, right? Or, one of the Buxtons, or the Connors, or somebody else who's been here a heck of a lot longer than I have, and say, hey, do you know, are any of these descendants alive? Again, I just think it's good practice to make sure that we're crossing our T's on all that stuff.
I agree with you, Michael. I think that that's really the right thing to do. I mean, I think when the trustees met, we didn't realize there were descendants you could speak with.
Sure.
But we did communicate as far as having the attorney get the approval of the funds to make these changes. So I guess that would have been a really good time to be able to just follow up with, is there anyone else that, because we're not in the habit of changing trustee documents.
Of course.
We don't ever want to do that. We just wanted to make sure
Yep.
that the school is holding such an amazing event in June, that we can support them in this great event that they're having. But, I'm just kind of, and not pointing fingers at all, but just trying to reflect on how we were thinking we were, crossing our T's, dotting our I's, doing all the right thing, because getting the approval of using legal funds to make all of this happen, and kind of keeping you folks in the loop around, we're making a change here. That makes a lot of sense.
How many funds like this do we have?
There are a lot of funds, but most of them are cemetery related.
A couple library-related ones,
Absolutely. So these,
There's not many.
there really isn't many that in this case is like so clear, oh, this was set aside for the use of Shakespeare or something similar to that, and being able to notch that up with what the PTO is doing over at the elementary school. Most of the funds are cemetery maintenance or for support for the library. That's primarily what the trust funds are for.
I guess the question then, just kind of out of the lessons learned out of this one is, if there are funds where they were set up specifically for this type of thing, and there are descendants left that have set it up, you guys should put a list of people to potentially reach out to, right? If
In this case,
you need to make a change.
we reviewed it with the people who set the trust up.
Right.
That's what Steve did.
Yeah.
Who actually set the trust up, because he had a relationship with Gordon Newman.
I was just thinking, in my work career, we had a big thing for checklists. Might want to have a checklist, like, we got to do it A through Z, and put that, here's our checklist, and then when you guys are done, and it gets your turn over to the next folks, we got a checklist. So when,
We've been working on it right now.
No, I know, one of the first things Steve asked when he became a trustee of the trust fund was, are there any laid out policies?
is there a
I'm like,
turnover
no.
check? Is there not?
So, the Varney Fund's another example, right? The Varney Trust Fund, which is for expansion of the water system. And it's very particular, actually. And several years ago, there was an attempt there was discussion, I should say an attempt, there was a discussion to use the Varney Fund to actually acquire the property on Main Street for the water district. And it was like, well, that's really a no-no under the Varney Trust. And so, people are always looking at these things, and again, sometimes it's a pain, but again, I think as you guys do your policies, putting in the good practices, this is one of them that I just want to raise with you directly. So, all right?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other questions, concerns, statements? Thank you guys for coming in. Really appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right. More mundane business. New Hampshire Department of Safety E911. So if you recall, we had the request from basically the broadband initiative for us to release the E911 data. I put a call into Carol Miller to have.
You assigned me that.
Oh, did you call?
Yeah.
Oh, did you talk to her?
Yeah.
Oh, because I put a call and she never returned my call.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I got you. I talked to her, and she said, there's no data, there's public and private data that's going to be involved in it. And what it does is establishes data points on the roads in town, and then it's broken down into segments. So that way they can track who has broadband, and it's not shareable. And we, in town, have 99.9% of the folks served with broadband, and it's just establishing baseline. There's no private data that's compromised in any way, shape, or form on this.
Did they match though who has broadband with those GPS points?
Into a zone. They'll break like 10 address points on Halls Mill or whatever, and then that's a zone, and then they'll correspond that to the zone, and that's how they say they correlate.
Mm-hmm.
But the big point that I was concerned when I spoke to her with this was privacy issues, and she bent over backwards and assured me that that was not an issue.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the letter's before us. I'll put it up for a vote. I will make a motion to request that E911 data be released to New Hampshire Granite per the request of the Broadband Initiative.
I'll second that.
Kobe will second. All in favor? I will oppose. I don't like giving Kobe data. I'll have one of you guys sign that.
Okay.
All right, Newmarket Fire and Rescue, letter of understanding. This is something that we dealt with before, but it's an updated letter. It's effective January 1st until the end of 2024, December 31st, 2024. It's basically mutual aid. You guys have a chance to look at that?
Mm-hmm.
Any questions, comments? No? I'll make a motion to approve the mutual aid with Newmarket for Fire and Rescue.
I'll second.
Second by Mike. All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, it should be.
Yep.
What is that? By the way, what's the purple tab? I just noticed it as I handed it to you.
Original.
Oh. The other one wasn't original? Oh,
I guess
no,
that's-
just go with the new one, go with the new
Go
one.
with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we had done it before, but I think we were just updating it. Perfect. All right, next up, fristless abatements. This will be interesting. Sir? Signature on the first, next page. So, Chris Fristless owns a property at the end of Halls Mill Road on the left-hand side, which borders with the Piscasset Greenway. This issue came up at the planning board, the last planning board meeting. He was making a request to basically be able to build on a lot next door to his house that he received after the Falzone development went by the wayside and the Piscasset Greenway was formed. This lot had been carved out as part of that process, and Chris and his wife bought it from Falzone.
Okay.
It's 1.5 acres, and it basically abuts the small portion of the turnaround at the end of Halls Mill.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, it does not have enough frontage, and it doesn't have enough acreage to actually qualify as a buildable lot. And this was the discussion of the planning board. It was originally assumed that it would be a buildable lot if the Falzone development went through, because Halls Mill would have extended into the Piscasset Greenway,
Yep.
thus providing enough frontage. And under a conservation development plan, which Falzone had, they would be able to build on that 1.5 acres.
Right.
Because there was no development and no access road, it fails on the acreage and it fails on the frontage. They acquired this in 2006.
Okay.
They have been charged property tax as if this was a buildable lot since 2006. And it's not a buildable lot, which is what the spreadsheet is.
Mhm.
Now, under the abatement rules, laws, they can only basically apply for abatement, I think, is it April 30th they have to apply, May 1? I can't remember. I think it's April you have to apply for an abatement. He came in last month, early May, to talk to planning about this, and we basically had the conversation and came to the realization that it isn't a buildable lot, and he's been charged as a buildable lot for 17 years. Now, as I said, you can apply for an abatement, apply for the prior year, you have to do it by May. I said to Chris, look, apply for an abatement, you know, come to the town, give us the whole history. This is something the select board should address and talk about. Said, I don't know where we're going to fall out. You know, probably not going to be able to fiscally consider a full abatement, but I think it's important that we try to address it. And certainly on a go-forward basis, obviously going forward, he's not going to be assessed $2,500 for the property when he's only should be assessed $500.
Right.
So going forward, it shouldn't be a problem. The issue before us is what, if anything, do we approve for an abatement for the Christmases? So that's the background. I'll leave it open for discussion, comments, thoughts.
Had this been, he was not cognizant of this restriction until just recently, since 2006, according to the spreadsheet, till 22.
Correct.
He was just not cognizant.
He was not aware that it was not a buildable lot. His assumption was when he purchased it from Falzone that it would be a buildable lot. But again, because the development was never done, the road wasn't done, it was not a buildable lot. And when Falzone had it, it was taxed as a buildable lot, and it just kept rolling forward, and nobody ever said boo about it.
And when did the Falzone stuff fail to go through?
2006.
So it was supposed to go through in 2006?
And basically, it didn't, you know, the town bought all that land,
Yeah.
and that's when Chris bought that lot.
And then the rest of the work that was supposed to be done never got done.
Correct. Falzone was gonna put in 120 houses, he ended up basically selling the land to the town, and actually the Piscasset Greenway is that, all that land, that we were just talking about, that's that conservation land.
Okay, so it wasn't like he bought the land thinking that, all right, he's gonna build lots all over, and then I can build my lot. He bought that land at the same time we bought the land.
In essence, yes, it was when Falzone basically sold off the Greenway to the town. Chris was around the same time or so when Chris bought it.
Okay.
I mean, I don't have the exact date, but it was in the same time frame.
No, yeah, even if it's in the same year, I mean, it's,
Yeah,
you know,
yep.
makes sense.
So, you see here, he has paid, in essence, over $46,000 over the years,
Mhm.
when, in fact, the revised tax amount is only about $9,000.
Right.
A $37,000 difference. As I said, I'm not sure, you know, how to address this. We don't have to address this tonight.
Mhm.
You guys may want to think about it. We just got the spreadsheets and everything.
What precedent is there, Michael, if we don't, has the board dealt with anything analogous that's before?
Not that I'm aware of, and certainly not to this extent. We get abatements periodically, of course, but it's usually for the prior year, and that's all we address. And as noted, you know, you're required to make an abatement request by May. Again, I encourage Chris to do this. It was past the due date, but given the extent of the mistakes by multiple parties on this, I thought it was appropriate to bring to the board to have a broader discussion than a typical abatement.
What's the select board's scope of authority on this?
Technically, we could vote almost any abatement we want to. Again, by law, it's somebody who wants an abatement has to apply by May.
I understand that, but theoretically, if we wanted to, we could refund the whole amount.
We could, especially because this is clearly a clerical mistake.
When you said that, Michael, it's because somebody decided it was buildable and just.
And at some point, nobody went back and checked. Again, we have appraisals, assessments done in town every several years, and this was never,
It's never been caught by.
it's never been caught.
How did it get caught?
He came to the planning board to talk about potentially developing the
So
property.
he was ready to develop it, okay.
Well, he was thinking of it,
Looking into it.
and he came to the planning board in, you know, in advance, like responsible people do in town, right? They say, hey, I'm thinking of doing this, is this all right? And the planning board said, there's no frontage here, and this is 1.5 acres. This isn't a buildable lot. And he was like, it's not. I've been paying for it like it's a buildable lot. And we were like, oh my. And that's, again, that's when I jumped in and said,
Yeah,
come raise it.
okay.
Is it even an abatement? That is, I don't know, what is an abatement?
An abatement is basically saying the property as assessed is actually, and the property tax that you have paid or should pay on this piece is improperly assessed for a variety of reasons. It could be a change in the building that wasn't done on the updated assessment. It could be a change in current use that wasn't properly recorded. And so the town would basically say, okay, your property tax is not $2,000, it's $1,800.
It's a little different than that. This is a clerical error.
Yeah, well, they happen for a variety of reasons. Sometimes they're clerical errors, sometimes it's, you know, the town makes mistakes, sometimes it's the landowner that makes a mistake, and they're like, no, wait a minute, you guys changed this, but I did something else. There's a variety of rationale for a request.
Yeah, the seller could have made, obviously made a mistake, right?
Yeah.
He traded it as buildable, but he sold it to the.
I don't know how that sale was, you know, proffered or conveyed. You know, we don't have the documentation on that.
Right.
And the deed doesn't say this is a buildable lot. It says, here are the meets and bounds, here's the dimensions, here's the location, you know, this is the transaction price. And so, you know, how they marketed the lot, I don't know. You know, that's way beyond my pay grade at this point.
So I look at this, Michael, and it appears to me that the Parcells have clean hands in this.
I would certainly say they do, without a doubt.
And that the onus here for this perpetuation of being taxed on a buildable lot lies with the town, is what it appears.
Yeah, but it's also the responsibility of the property owner. Don't they get a property tax bill? If they feel that it's in error, they can come to the town and say, this is an error. And we have that happen all the
I
time.
understand, but this is such a unique situation.
It is. It's a unique situation. Again, they didn't catch it. The town didn't catch it. Assessor didn't catch it. It's caught now. And again, there's no obligation of the town. I just think as a right thing to do, the town should do something. What that is it, you know, $1? Is it $46,000? It's probably somewhere in between. That's why I bring it to you. And like I said, we don't have to decide this tonight.
I'd like to do some more research on this.
Absolutely. I just thought it was good to have a discussion about this. You know, you know, I'm sure we'll all have different opinions about it. We can come up with something. All right? Do you have any other comments, questions? All right, great. We'll hold off on that. All right, loan applications. So, there's 2 loan applications for the Clean Water State Revolving Fund. These are related to the two warrant articles passed in March. The Summer and Pleasant Street stormwater system. We have made a request on, you can see it on the second page, for a loan of $155,900 from the Clean Water State Revolving Fund. Assuming that we utilize those monies as stipulated, this will become a grant. It'll transfer to a grant that we don't have to pay back. The town has committed $173,600 to do the project. This is the basically the formal paperwork associated with the loan grant. We've been approved for this, so as long as we do the paperwork and follow through, we'll get those funds. The second one, same thing. This is for the rain gardens here at Town Hall and at the library. The loan amount is for $8,700 with another $22,500 from the town. Questions about the applications?
No. Sorry, what was the amount for
The big one, or the rain garden, it would be a loan amount, again, converted to a grant eventually, of $8,700. And then the local funds you see in the middle is $22,500 on the second page. Second page. So this is for the Pleasant Street. That's the request for the grant, and here is the request, the amount that we provide in this.
Right.
This is the
This is the right one.
Yep, correct. So it basically is providing contact points, check the boxes, giving them a timetable for this. There's a few letters there, obviously indicating your positions as members of the select board and that we're authorized to make this request. These letters will go on the letterhead, but it's for the most part it's boilerplate. Any other questions, comments? I'll make a motion for us to sign and send the loan applications for the Summer Street and Pleasant Street stormwater and the Town Hall and Library rain gardens.
Second.
Second by Hobie. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'll get those on letterhead. You guys don't need to sign those. It's just one signature, so we'll take care of those tomorrow. Okay. Meeting minutes. So we deferred the meeting minutes for April 25th last time because they were long. I don't know if you guys have any comments on those minutes? Concerns, questions? No? I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for April 25th, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Before us, we have the minutes for the 16th. You guys want to go through those now, or you want to defer for the next meeting? I mean, I always like going through the minutes. I prefer to defer as opposed to. Want to defer? Yeah. We'll make a habit of that. We'll defer minutes.
Okay.
We'll get them. We'll run them next after.
Yep.
Let me just jump to Hilton Field tree removal. I reached out to the sellers about this. This is the dead tree on the corner of the sellers lot on Route 85. It's dead. The sellers don't have a problem with the town hiring somebody to go and remove the tree. What's that?
$1,200.
Yeah, we got a quote of $1,200 for it, so we'll put that into effect to get that done.
Okay.
It's a lovely tree, but it's at this point it's more of a hazard than a benefit. So we'll take care of that. May revenue and expenditures. You have that before you. Let's do a quick look through that. Wow. Lots of land use change revenue this year, huh?
Continues to come in.
Excellent. Well, that's development money. I think that's mostly, is that all the land use change for, those were mostly that was the development up on Lee, getting done, the land use change?
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. We're over budget on legal this year, boys,
Yep.
to no one's surprise. Fortunately, everything else looks pretty good. Not bad. Not bad. Any questions, comments, concerns about the town revenues and expenditures to date? Great. Just a couple items I'll raise and then I'll open it up. So Chief mentioned the desire for a fireworks ordinance in town at the last meeting, if you recall. I reached out to him, he's gonna get us some language. The state fire marshal is requesting that we do something.
Yep.
Right now, we're one of, 3/4 of the towns in New Hampshire basically are unpermitted, as long as it's consumer fireworks. Obviously, you can't go get commercial fireworks.
Sure.
Interestingly enough, there's a couple dozen towns that had no fireworks. A lot of them are around here, believe it or not. And then there's some that require permits. So he was gonna get language for us to consider, so I'm just keeping you apprised of that. At some point, we'll probably circulate something and do some public hearings to change our ordinance. So there's something on the books with respect to fireworks usage.
Okay.
That'll be subject to 3 public hearings and ordinance language.
Yep.
Number 2, the Trust for Public Land reached out to me on Friday. They indicated that in their conversations with the Clean Water Revolving Fund at the state,
Yep.
that there may be some funds available from the Clean Water Fund for assistance with the RUG property, potential acquisition of the RUG property. So the Trust for Public Funds was going to follow up. We'll have to do a grant application, a pre-application for that by this Thursday. Now, Lynette Batt from the Trust for Public Lands asked me, are you going to be available to do the paperwork if that's available? And I said, I'll commit that on Thursday I'll do paperwork in order to do that, assuming that you guys are comfortable with the idea. It's not committing us to spend money, it's not committing us to raise money. All it is we'll apply and see if the Clean Water will allow us to use funds for the RUG acquisition, if we ever go forward with the RUG acquisition.
As we did previously.
Yeah. So if you guys are okay with that, then I'll do the pre-application materials. It's basically a description of, what the transaction might be, and the Trust for Public Land will weigh in and everything else. Like I said, there's no commitment here. It's just, they're giving away money and this applies. We might as well lower the burden on the people in town if we can. So, you guys are good with that?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I just wanted to keep you informed. And then, along similar lines, so the state is also providing grant money for town landings. One of the thoughts I had was seeing, I looked up a bunch of quotes for a flagpole at the town landing.
Yep.
Which would be great, a nice yard arm flagpole for...
It's like Opie's got.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it would be nice to have one down there, especially for the Memorial Day service.
Yep.
So I was gonna, again, do the same thing, see if they'll give us money, that doesn't commit us to do anything. The other thing I was gonna look at, do another application, which would be to do a storage shed for down at the landing. If people want to store paddles and blood preservers or anything else. Again, I have no idea if they'll accept it or not, but if you guys had any questions about that, you don't have a problem, I'll do the application for that. I just got an email from the state saying, it's due June 1st.
Hey, if it's raining money, take it.
Yes?
Do you have a mechanism for collecting other suggestions for how you might, for what we might request?
I'd love to hear suggestions, absolutely. There's no formal mechanism. You know, people email us all the time.
People would love to weigh in.
Oh, send us email. Our emails, everybody out there, our emails are online, cell phone, call Sue, call ourselves. You know, people have asked in the past on a variety of things. You know, this is just something that hit our email box from the state. And, you know, I talked to Winfrey, who's our town landing administrator, and this might be a good idea to, if they're giving away money, just do some applications. Like I said, I have no idea if we'll get any. But if people have ideas about, you know, a variety of things, like a couple of meetings ago, people were asking us, can we apply to get money for crosswalks, right? Stuff like that. People have ideas, come to us, if there's money available, we'll look for it. Sometimes the police will be the ones to do it, or fire will be the ones to do it, but people have ideas, love to hear them.
Wynn said he wanted a cannon and a flagpole.
I don't know, getting a cannon past the state is probably a non-starter.
Oh, and he mentioned the helicopter.
Yeah, I want a helicopter for next Memorial Day. So, speaking of which, I certainly want to express my thanks to everybody who put together Memorial Day celebration for a small town. I think we do a hell of a day. Parade was great, the weather was great turnout by the town.
And veterans.
Veterans.
More veterans we've seen.
Quite some time. I mean, it's great, everybody coming out.
I got 2 more for next year. I'd love to go over today.
Oh, good. Kudos to the celebration committee and everybody else who pitched in to make it happen. It takes a lot of work, a lot of effort, and it is greatly appreciated for everybody. As I said, for a small town, I think we do a great job honoring our veterans with Memorial Day, along with our other celebrations. So thank you.
Certainly second that.
Thank you very much, everybody. All right, that's what I had on my list. Do you guys have other things that you want to raise?
Michael, corresponds to, did we talk about the donation?
Oh, we didn't. I skipped that. No, thank you. Great. Thank you. So 2 items up on that, correspondence discussion. Before we get to the Health and Human Services, the Wilson family on Main Street donated in memory of Christine Wilson, Constitution of the United States, along with writings from the founding fathers to the town. We greatly thank you for the donation, and we will find a good place to display that for the town. And with that, Health and Human Services.
On the donations again?
Yep.
What you did last year, I can work on it and bring it back.
I'm all for that.
So I will take that for action then.
So just have that spreadsheet right there.
Yeah.
So there are a variety of organizations that provide services here in town, some who don't, but as nonprofits, they make a request of the town to provide some support. We budgeted $4,750 for 2023, and so the hard part is obviously figuring out which organizations get what. Hobie, I like the idea of you taking a first crack. We'll have a discussion, amend, change, figure out what we want to do and whatnot. So
I think my math will be better this year.
excellent, double check. So we'll defer that for our next meeting as well. All right, did I miss anything? I don't think so. Just June meeting days, but you guys want to, do you guys have anything else?
I got a couple things.
Yeah, go.
So as far as recording this meeting, the select board meetings, and it going into the queue so it's accessible, is there a data limit that we have as far as the amount of data?
So, no, there's no data limit. Our current contract provides for like 3 or 4 meetings a month.
Because what I would like to propose is that all board meetings, Concom, select board, planning board meetings, every town board meeting be recorded and be viewable live.
We'll have to revisit our contract then,
Okay.
because that will require us to pay more money on a monthly basis to do that.
Understand that I think it's important that folks in town have access and to see what transpires in the meetings, and it will also reduce communication issues throughout the town. So how would you like to proceed on that, sir?
It's gonna conflict with our existing budget, so it may be something that we have to look at. If you wanna do this, I will encourage you to reach out to Town Hall Streams. Talk to them about it. Yeah, she'll have the information. Contact them. Again, our current contract allows us only a couple meetings a month.
Okay.
And so you'll have to find out what that's going to change in terms of fees. It may be something that we'll have to start at the beginning of next year under a new contract. Just because of the budget.
Understand. Along those lines, one of the things, since we can't sit there and see these meetings, and Mike, you referenced that you're going to be doing this with the Concom, that anytime a member from this board engages as on their assigned boards, like to planning, conservation, et cetera, that there just be a report back. And we just make that part of our statement protocol. Because you can get so much from the minutes, but there's a lot of times that there's nuance or other parts that are incorporated into the minutes, and that will preclude maybe some of the issues we had with Concom. But I just think it would facilitate a smoother situation if we had that engagement.
I agree 100%, and I think it should work back the other way too. If we are sitting on those boards, and I'm sure Michael does it with the planning and zoning, I'm going to start doing it with Concom and just letting them know, hey, this is what we're talking about. And the first thing no one knows that we're going to look at video record their meetings. Just to give them a heads up on, on something like that, other than me just showing up one day, clicking on the.
And there's a protocol for putting it in place, of course. But I think, transparency, the more that people can see and hear, I think that's.
I agree. I'm with you on that.
Okay. And then I had a non-public 91A:3, Roman 2D.
Bill, before we do that, let's finish the rest of the public discussion. Do you have anything else?
No.
Let's look at June for meeting dates. What dates would you guys prefer?
I'm not available the 27th, everything else I'm good.
Okay. You have bad dates? Bad dates.
Well, next Tuesday.
Are you not available the week of the 27th or just the 27th?
We're going from the 22nd to the 1st.
Okay.
How many meetings are
As far as availability.
We can schedule two, but we can always, again, depending on the agenda, we can always. I don't anticipate a lot coming up right now.
Yeah.
Again, probably the ones that we'd have to address at our next meeting is the donations as well as the friskless issue. The fireworks ordinance, we can do it any time. There's no huge rush on that.
So how's the 13th look?
I think the 13th is fine.
Okay.
I am gone the 20th through the 25th. So if we do the 13th and the 27th, I know you're gone. It may be worthwhile to do though, because then we would skip July 4th and probably look at the 11th and the 25th for July.
In July, the only day I'm not available is the 25th.
Of course.
Well, if you're gone the 27th, and we're not sure if we need one or two, why don't we plan on the 13th, and then 20 is an option in June? So
That's fine. I won't be here on the 20th.
Oh, you won't be here.
Trust me, That's not a problem, guys. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, it's gonna happen where
Yeah.
one of us isn't gonna be here, so
Sure.
I have no problem.
Yeah, you know.
I have no, let's plan on the 13th.
Let's see what we got.
And let's see what we got after the 13th, for the following date.
Okay.
Again, we just have to post 24 hours in advance, so.
Yeah.
Um,
And I'm out the week of the 18th of July.
18th of July, you're
Yeah.
out? Okay.
Do
Okay.
you want to move it to the 19th?
Oh, we can, no, he's out the week of the 18th.
Oh, you're out the week?
Yeah, I'll be at the beach.
How about the 17th?
Um,
I mean, you're going that whole week.
I'm on the whole-
In all honesty,
Start on 14th.
why don't we do this? We'll plan on the 13th, the 11th,
Yeah,
okay, of July,
yeah.
and then, you're gone the week of the 25th?
I am going from the 22nd.
Yep.
I'm not available until the 1st.
Okay. Well, we could shoot for the 1st, August 1. So, and then
Oh,
probably,
July, oh, okay.
so I'm looking at June 13, right?
Yeah.
July 11,
Yeah.
and then plan on August 1, and if we need meetings in between, we'll figure it out.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah. Perfect.
Works for me.
All right. So, did you get that, Keisha?
I did, yes.
613, 711, and 81.
Good night.
Hey,
Good
thanks for coming.
Warm me up.
Thanks for coming. All right. Any other business for the open session? No? Yeah, we covered. Don't need that, don't need
Oh,
that.
just for the record, Michael,
Mhm.
all correspondence that comes to the board is public record. Unless, is there any way somebody could... so
That's not necessarily true.
Okay, that's what I want to clarify.
Coming from, for example, coming from town council is
No,
not.
no, I'm talking about from citizens of the town. Of course.
Yes, if somebody were to 91A it, they can make a request for any correspondence to or from the board members with respect to.
Okay, so I mean, well, one of the things I had a question on was the letter to self that we were writing, which, you know, I mentioned to the Conservation Commission that we were going to be sending a letter. I did not get into the details of the letter with them.
That's fine.
So, but I wasn't sure, because I wasn't sure
Yeah.
if I should or not.
No, you should, in the future, yeah, absolutely. Any correspondence, like, from the board outside, it is discoverable,
Yep,
and it's public record.
yep,
So, having conversations about that, absolutely.
okay.
Again, the 91A stuff is really dealing with contracts, employees,
Right.
Real estate.
real estate matters, emergency, police or fire procedures, stuff like that. Pretty much everything else, we're required to do it in public and it be publicly accessible.
Because I've had, what precipitated this was I've had a number of folks ask me, is correspondence that somebody writes to the select board,
Discoverable?
can I go and
Yes.
get a copy of that? And
Yep.
I told them yes, but I wanted to kind of get it on record tonight that for folks who were curious about it.
If there's correspondence to or from us that does not fall under the 91A exclusions, somebody can request it. Now, it requires, a certain process to make a request, but it is discoverable.
As we're sitting here, Hazel Properties going.
June 7th, 10 o'clock.
That's the auction.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
That's one, yeah.
Anything else?
Just that one thing I wanted.
Yeah, so, all right, so we'll adjourn the public meeting. I'll make a motion to go into non-public under 91A3D.
Second.
Second by Mike, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great.
I'm sorry, did you say 91E?
D. That was D, right?
D is in Delta.
Yep.